Okay, so the lead you're supplied with is this one. So you've got your kettle plug style connector. It's 2-pin, but it does have the ground on this, which is needed for the ESD safe. So this is the wrong type of adapter. I'll link to the ones which work with that third ground connection. I had a computer monitor cable kicking about, but they call them kettle leads. There's plenty on Amazon. They're only about £3-4. I'll link to those also. Put it under continuity. Got it on the ground pin now. If we touch the soldering iron tip, you can see it's grounded, along with the hot air gun. So let's plug it in, and I'll show you the operation. So first off, if you want to change it from Celsius to Fahrenheit, just hold the down arrow and switch it on. So I'm going to go back to Celsius. So that's the same for the Rework hot air gun. So once you've set it to your preferred setting, Celsius or Fahrenheit, and you want to change the temperature, it's just your up and down arrows, plus and minus. So we can go down, gradual, or if we keep it held down, it will go faster. So to operate the hot air gun, it's quite easy. You just switch it on. See, it's a sleep mode, so whenever it's put into the base, it goes into a sleep mode, cools itself down. Obviously there's no heat at the moment. So you can set the temperature and the fan speed without the hot air being on. So if you press the set button, you can see we go from 10. If you hold it down, it will speed up. So we can go from 10 to 99. So take it back down again. And our temperature, if you go up and down, we can change the temperature like so, gradually, or hold it to go faster. And the air gun itself has a safety feature, so while it's in that position, you can't take it out. See, it's like an upright on those fins. If we put those fins to the side, you can see we've got 3 lines showing here. Move it forward, it will come out, and then the hot air gun will start up. You see how quickly it reaches its temperature. Just a few seconds will be there. So we're there already. You have to put it back the same way as you took it out, like so. And it starts to twist itself naturally, but you can just twist it. So you're not going to knock it out, you're not going to burn yourself or burn anything. It's gone into sleep mode again, so it's cooling itself down. And even if I was to switch it off, as long as it's plugged in, it will still cool down. So some nice little safety features built into this little unit. It does take a little while to cool itself down. So if you did want to calibrate this unit, you can. If you've got the equipment, you can buy a unit which measures the tip temperature for the iron, and to calibrate this unit, it's just the up arrow and you switch the soldering iron on. See, we can go plus or minus, I think it's up to 99. Yeah, 99, so minus and plus. That's the same for the hot air gun. Okay, so as you can see, it does do the job. So I didn't put any tip on it because it's quite a large component, so I didn't want to restrict that airflow. So I set it at 370C at 60% on the fan speed, and it didn't take too long to come off, as you would have seen. I will be putting a nozzle on to remove this. I think it's a regulator here, and remove a few of these caps. So this has, I use the tweezers, this has 1206 surface mount devices, 0603, and we've got smaller ones, 0402. So we can remove those fairly easily with the air gun. All I would say is, you know, the temperature I set was fine with this board, but you might have a board with a heavy ground on it, you know, big ground planes. Then you've got to up the heat, you know. If you've got to play around with the heat, you might find the solder's not melting because of that. So it depends on how many layers the board has got, the setup of the board. Another thing is, so normally you would, like a few components have moved, I can see that, but you would drop the fan speed to prevent that, and you can mask it off with a foil tape. You can see there's a few floating around. So yeah, what I would recommend, if you're working on a good board, you would buy some foil tape. There's Captain tape, but that's, yeah, the heat resistance on that's not very good. It can melt quite easily. I've seen it where it still allows these plastic connectors to melt. So the aluminium foil tape is like sticky back tape, and it does do the job. I'm going to put a nozzle on it next, and we'll take this regulator off. So flux is your best friend, so don't be afraid to put plenty of flux around a component you're removing or fitting. It's going to help that solder flow. It gives a much better finish on the solder joint. You know, you can see it straight away. The way the solder flows is better, especially when you use lead-free solder, which doesn't flow that well to begin with. I will pop up on the screen the melting points of solder, the lead and lead-free, but that is just a rough guide, but that will get you up and running, you know, when you're soldering, you know, let you know roughly what you should be working with. If you need more heat, you know, raise it up. If you need less fan speed because you're scared of blowing away other components, then yeah, all you've got to do is take down that fan speed, take it down to 30%. It might take a little bit longer to remove it, but it's still going to be removed in the end. So let's try it with this regulator. I'm going to be putting flux on it, reflowing it. That's always going to make the job easier. So something to keep in mind when you're doing these components is flux, reflow, heat up with your air gun, and remove it. Let's put some flux on the component we're going to remove. Don't be afraid to put plenty on. This will help the air tool when it reflows it. So we're now at 370. It doesn't take long to reach its temperature, set temperature. You will be able to hear my extraction fan going. Hopefully you can hear my voice over that. So it's melting okay. So it's a case of so let's raise it up to 380. Try again. So now we can see these legs reflowing. So it's just like I said, you know, sometimes you do need to apply more heat. So 380. So we've reflowed it. Now let's put the hot air tool on it. So I'll put that on now. As you can see, I'll put the tip on it. Quite a small tip. It shouldn't take long to remove this. Not with the fresh solder on it. So I am right-handed, but I'm using my left hand so I don't get in the way of the camera too much. So to begin with, you really want to heat the board up around the component if you can. So with the nozzle off, just warm up, especially if you've got a heavy ground. It makes the work so much easier. So we're still on 370. You may need a bit more heat because the flat pack has less grounding in this component. There you go. No problem still, 370. So if we used to keep around here, start removing some of these caps. Got 1206 there. See, now the board's hot, we can just flick components off. So let's take this 0603 off. So it's very easy once the board has got some heat into it. There you go. Very easy. Can move around and just flick these components off. So that is how easy it is to remove a 0402. They are tiny. So let's put one back on. Put the 0603 resistor back on. Okay. So you can use the tool to put stuff back on as well as take stuff off. So let's use it to put this back on. Okay, so let's add some more solder, fresh solder. So we're still at 380. Seems to be doing the job. And then we can spin this round. So as you can see, it's blowing away them components I took off already. Okay, so I'm adding some more flux to remove some of the solder. There's a little bit too much solder on here. And the flux helps it mop up that solder. So as I was saying, you can touch up these legs. Just make sure you put heat on the pad and on the leg so it travels up underneath the leg. You don't need too much solder. So if you have got too much solder on there, or you want to remove solder from pads, then use the copper wick. So as you would have seen from the testing video, both the soldering iron and the hot air gun performed really well. You've got your soldering tips, various ones for different purposes, different applications. 2 pairs of tweezers, solder sucker, they give you some solder, it's probably lead free. And you've got your heating elements. So one for the soldering iron and one for the hot air gun. So for this sort of price, you can't go far wrong. So if you already have a soldering iron but no hot air gun, then you might want to give this a try. For the cost of it, even for a variable soldering iron, you're looking about £15–20. So you can get various other options. You can get a base model, so just the actual station and the 3 tips for the hot air tool. The price is very competitive. If you look on Amazon and eBay, these are starting at around £40 and some of them around £60, the same model. I'll leave a link in the description if you're interested and you want to grab one for yourself. And I'll catch you on the next one.